Welcome to Curious Goldfish, a podcast community where music and curiosity come together through interesting conversations with the music makers of our world. I'm your host, Jason English. You can find Curious Goldfish on all the major podcast and social media platforms. And of course, we have all of our content on our website, curiousgoldfish.com. So nice to meet you, Lucy.
It's so nice to meet you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time on a Sunday. You're a mom, and it sounds like mom things have come up, right?
Always mom things. There are always things that are for the mom.
Yeah, that's a lot. It's a lot. There's actually a songwriter I talked to a few months ago, Lauren Lucas, who's in Nashville.
Okay.
She just wrote a song called Motherload.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the double meaning of like the load, but also it's the jackpot because you're a mom and stuff, and it's pretty clever.
Yeah,
but
that's a good one.
Yeah, but yeah. So
wish I wrote it.
But thanks for taking the time because I don't want to take away from your family, but I wanted to catch up with you about the album that's out in October and all the things. But first and foremost, if you had one musical the last musical you could ever go and watch live, what is it?
Oh, wow. That I could go watch live. I have like 10 million musicals that I would like to be in, but that I could go watch live. Maybe I'm like a big Stephen Sondheim person, so maybe like Into the Woods, or I've seen Sweeney Todd a lot, so
okay.
Probably I've already taken care of that one.
Not Les Mis, thank goodness.
No, I mean I can respect Les Mis, but yeah, no, Stephen Sondheim has got me in a chokehold. Yeah, and that's kind of not to like go where you've gone before in terms of interviews and stuff, but that's kind of an interesting hook. Your background in musical theater and went to Yale and was you were an actress for a bit, right? Yeah. So like that's all really interesting. I guess at what point were you just like, okay, the music thing is where my head's at and my heart's at? It was kind of just when I decided I didn't want to live in New York, which like, sorry, New York, but I grew up in New Jersey. On the beach, I could see Manhattan from like where I grew up. And I think it just ended up being too close to home for me. And I didn't want to do that. So I had started writing music toward the end of college, and I knew I liked Nashville. So I was like, I'll just head down there and see if I can make something of it. And if not, I can always go back to drama school and, do more theater and maybe. I mean, who knows? It's all a crapshoot, right?
Yeah.
So.
Does Nashville have any kind of musical theater kind of culture here?
There's a theater community here.
Yeah.
I never really got super engaged in it, but I knew some folks who were into it. I mean, there's like a pretty good children's theater. And then, of course, we get all the regional tours that come through and stuff like that. Yeah. And then otherwise, to the best of my knowledge, it's kind of just like community theater productions and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, I read somewhere else, too. You might be jealous of this, but I came to Nashville late Thursday after a big tech conference that I was a part of in terms of my day job.
Yeah.
And in the middle of the day, this is a great story. In the middle of the day, there's all these people there to learn about, whatever, technology and all this stuff. And out of the blue, Brandi Carlile shows up.
Shut up.
With the twins.
Wait.
Yes. I had the same reaction. And so I was like, I'm sitting there going, okay, it's Brandi with the twins. And she only played, it was cool. It was 40 minutes, middle of the day.
Yeah.
Played a couple songs or whatever.
At your tech conference?
Yeah, so the tech conference. And it's like the coolest tech conference ever. It's Dreamforce.
Okay.
It's
Sounds cool.
Put on by, it's in San Francisco.
Okay.
But, it's the middle of the day and everybody's there to like do stuff for work, but just the joy that music, but her specifically brought to everybody because everybody's like in their suits and listening to her and the twins do their thing, and it was just like a really good moment. Yeah, and I know that she's been a big influence on you, right?
For sure. Yeah, I started listening to her in college, so I go way back with my fandom. But one of my friends introduced me to her. They just sent me a video of her singing this song called "Looking Out." And I just loved it. I was like, oh, this is perfect. And I mean, that was what kind of inspired me to think of myself as a musician rather than just as an actress or, I always thought of myself as a singer, but I didn't really devote myself to instruments. I always played instruments, but I didn't really think of myself as a musician in that way until I started listening to her music and got more like engaged in it and wanting it to be something that I did. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So my story with her, in 2007, I was living in Boulder, Colorado, and she opened for the Indigo Girls.
Oh my gosh, another.
Yeah, and I love the Indigo Girls. They were great, but like leaving that concert, it was like,
you're like, oh, I'm a Brandi Carlile.
Well, I'm like, the opener, she's going to be huge.
Yeah,
because she was just so good.
Yeah. I remember when I think it was the first year I was living in Nashville. I moved here in 2015, and she was going to be at the Ryman, and my parents didn't know anything about her, but they were going to be in town while she was visiting, or while she was playing at the Ryman. And I was like, well, guess what? We're all going to see Brandi Carlile at the Ryman. And they were like, we don't know what that means, but okay. And so we ended up going. We brought my cousin who lives here, and they have a million kids, but at the time they had like 2 or 3 kids. And so they came with us, and my parents were there, and the babysitter called my cousin, like sobbing. She was like, your kids are crying. Like, I need you to come home. And so my mom was like going to bring my cousin back to take care of her kids. My mom turned to my dad, and she was like, I have to bring Diana back home. Like, do you want to come with me? He was like, absolutely not. I'm staying for the rest of this. And from like that point on, he was like the biggest Brandi Carlile fan. Anytime she was in town, he was like, yes, I'm going. And like, she has the power. She converts people, you know?
Yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah.
So I know, she's very, progressive and all around a lot of things to like better the culture and the society. I guess from that standpoint, as an artist, do you have a passion that you're, trying to have your music sort of like tap into, from that perspective?
Yeah. I mean, I've always there are many things that I'm very passionate about, and like I am very supportive of. I've always had kind of a hard time in terms of my writing. Like, I think some people are more naturally kind of activists in the way that they write. And I just can't seem to make myself write that way. So in terms of my songwriting, I wouldn't say I struggle with it, but it's not intuitive for me. But, in everything else that I do, I try to be forward in that way. I'm on the board of a folk organization called the Southeast Regional Folk Alliance. And we have a conference in May every year. And this year, something that was very important to me was to bring kind of more LGBT friendly and inclusive paneling and stuff like that to the conference. And I want to build on that. And especially being in the South, we can have a hard time with the queer community. So that's become something I'm passionate about, or at least more vocally passionate about in the recent past. And also just being a parent, the number of people that I've met in the industry since I have become a parent who've said like, wow, it's really nice to see you with your kids. Because my oldest daughter tours with me. I just had a second daughter 7 weeks ago.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, thank you.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so my daughters tour with me, and I've gotten a lot of feedback from other musicians about like how much they like seeing that and how much they like knowing that my kids are part of the community and stuff like that. So,
well, I know Nashville is part of the South. Obviously, it's in Tennessee, but do you think is it more progressive? Do you think than other southern cities, just given the influence of artists and creatives?
I think it depends on what part of town you're in. Honestly, I'm married to a local. He grew up in a suburb of Nashville, Mount Juliet, and you cross the line from East Nashville into the eastern part of Tennessee, and a lot of that goes away. I think Nashville has a really vibrant and thriving queer community.
Yeah.
And I think that there are many ways in which it is more progressive. We also have a lot of out-of-towners who have moved in. I'm technically one of those too, even though we're a decade in. So people bring perspectives from all over. And so, I think overall Nashville is pretty supportive of the queer community. But there are limits to everything.
All right. Yeah. Well, so we're talking in kind of late September, but you have a new album coming out in October, which is exciting, I guess. What's the context of that from a theme perspective and sort of life experience perspective?
Ooh, it's a doozy. No, I wrote the album pretty much as I was recording it. I had some of the songs completely finished when we started recording, and then I had other songs that I was kind of polishing, and then I had other songs that I did not even start writing until we were already in the recording process. So it really was like a very precise summation or summary of what was happening in my life as I was writing and recording it. And as it turned out, a lot was happening in my life, not that I necessarily expected. My dad passed away, wasn't expecting that. I had a baby. I had about 10 months to expect that one. But yeah, there was just a lot going on. I've been splitting time between Nashville, New Jersey for the last little while now. So all of that, spending more time in my hometown and having my kids there more often, losing my dad and everything, it really informed a lot of what was going into the music.
Okay. And the album's called All the Light, is that right?
Yeah.
So what is the light?
So I think so it's actually a lyric from one of the songs on the album. There's a song called Where It Lies, and there's a line in it that says it's hard to see for all the light, meaning, like sometimes it's hardest to see the things that are most obvious to us. So I think the light in the context of the song is kind of just like, hey, like, wake up, like, and but I think it's also hope, because even throughout all of the change and like turmoil somewhat that I was going through through the writing process of this, I still feel good. I still feel hopeful and optimistic about my life in the future and my kids' lives. And so I wanted to bring in that hope that light often represents. But there's also kind of a touch of the snark of like, wake up, everyone.
Yeah. All right. What was your dad's name?
Joseph.
Joseph. What's the headline for those of us that never met Joseph?
Oh boy. We used to joke that he had like 9 lives. Like, this man went to hell and back a million times over. He was a Vietnam veteran. He got sent there when he was 19. He had cancer twice. He was in a motorcycle accident, had his neck and back shattered. Gosh. And all of this just kept trucking along. And he used to get annoyed when people would say like, oh, like, you're indestructible. Cause he's like, listen, there's a limit to this. And,
at some point.
Yeah. And so, he was so passionate, and, he loved, I have 2 sisters and a brother. He loved his kids. He loved his grandkids. And he just was full of life. He was so funny, but like pretty introverted. He would much rather sit at home and watch Married at First Sight or Say Yes to the Dress any day of the week than go out and have to interact with people. But at the same time, he was like the life of the party when he did go out.
Jeez.
So yeah, he was a fun guy.
How much did he influence the music?
I would say a fair bit. He, for as much as I love him and as much as we got along, we also were constantly butting heads. We're very similar personalities. Yeah. So we had like kind of diametrically opposed views on a lot of things, but it was also the kind of thing where we were so similar that even when we were arguing about something, like, it didn't actually matter to us, So I think he comes through specifically, in the song My Memory, because he's the first line of that. My father is a radio, which is a reference to the radio that he used to play blaringly loud at all times, much to my dismay as a child.
What kind of music did you like?
Oh, it was talk radio.
Oh my gosh. Paul Harvey and stuff like that?
It was like Rush Limbaugh and stuff like that. Yeah. But he also loved music. There was not a song in the world that this man did not know. Yeah. So we would listen to like doo-wop, and he knew everything. And all of it loud. To be fair, he did have hearing loss from Vietnam, but I was just like, can we maybe turn the volume down a little bit? But yeah, so he informed it, literally, specifically, and and then I think also just in terms of who he was and who I am, and the crossover there.
What do you want listeners to take away from All the Light when they hear it in October?
I want them to see the optimism. There's a lot of the album was me just kind of saying, like, you kind of just gotta like let go and let God. There's a lot that we can't control in life, and it's much easier if we don't try. Not to be complacent, not to take a back seat in your own life, but when you're trying to nitpick and get a handle on literally everything that's happening to you, you kind of lose sight of what's actually going on around you, and lose sight of your ability to enjoy it. Yeah. So that was kind of the goal of the album, like, even in all of the chaos and madness, and maybe sometimes things that are disappointing or things that are overwhelming, there's all this joy, and to take advantage of that too. Don't just dwell in the harder stuff.
Okay. So today, like with this sort of in play in late 2024. Where are you at as an artist, do you think, and where do you want to be?
I think this like album cycle kind of has taught me a lot about myself as an artist. I really struggled to write during the pandemic. I didn't feel like I had anything worth saying because there were so many things happening in the world. And so sitting down to write this album really kind of encouraged me and made me realize like, oh, I can not force myself, but I can sit down and write a song. Like I don't have to just like wait for the muse to come. I can make that happen for myself. So it was really encouraging for me creatively that way. And I think I'm kind of just taking it from there. And I think because all of the songs that I have on this album, with the exception of one, are songs that I wrote for it. There's still a lot of life to it. With projects in the past, I've taken songs that I have been playing on the road for years and just kind of threw them together and was like, this is an album. But this time, because I wrote everything specifically for the album and because I was in the throes of recording it and I wasn't able to tour as much while I was doing that, there's a lot of it that I feel like I haven't even gotten to know super well on the road. Like I haven't gotten to know the audience's reaction to it necessarily. I've maybe played them a handful of times for different audiences. And it really takes me probably like, I don't know, a year of playing it on the road to feel like I understand how an audience receives it. I can still enjoy playing it up until that point, but it's a learning process. It's like, it's getting to know my music just as much as a listener gets to know my music. So I'm looking forward to, next steps, getting to know it in that way and maybe seeing what I can do with these songs in a different way. Maybe that's re-recording them. I've had some ideas about a collaborative album that uses some of these songs, but with other friends from Nashville, and maybe seeing what they would bring to an interpretation of it, and maybe doing an EP like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you, so you mentioned you had a window where you were trying to finish the songs and you were intentional. Do you have a formula that you go through when you're writing the songs?
Not really. There were a couple of songs. There was one weekend where I wrote 4 songs for the album, and 2 of them were songs that I already had like at least a verse for. One of them I had a verse and a chorus, and then there were 2 songs that I just completely wrote from scratch. And sometimes I give myself like a little prompt. Like with one of those songs, I realized like, oh, none of the songs, like every song on this album is in the first person. Like I should write a song that's not in the first person. So I just started with that like nugget and then just wrote a song from there. So I don't really have a formula necessarily, but I'll often kind of look back through like a notes app or something like that and see if there's any phrase I've jotted down in the past that might kind of trigger an idea for the rest of a song.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Songwriting is kind of weird. Like I know there are people who are very formulaic about it and very methodical, but for me, it's never really been that way. It's always been, I'm just going to see what my brain says. Like I'm just going to put pen to paper and see what comes out.
Well, the classic story or explanation is these, the artists are always inspired by heartache or, the bottom of life, addiction, grief, everything like that. I guess and hopefully not, but like, is there something that you've recovered from that is sort of the, cast the shadow that is the, that artist's inspiration?
Yeah. I mean, wow. Yeah. I mean, I haven't really talked about this in a public setting, but I am a recovering alcoholic actually. So
oh my gosh. Okay.
There you go.
Well,
actually 10 years tomorrow. So
let's go, Lucy.
Yeah. Go team.
No, that's amazing.
Yeah. So, I mean, that I think like sobriety has informed, it informs like everything, because the whole sobriety is not just not drinking, sobriety is like, oh, let me look at why that is how I'm dealing with things. And I think that's also got a lot to do with the control aspect and trying to let go of control on this album. Because like that is also a big part of sobriety. Like it's just, there's something bigger than you at work here, and you got to just kind of sit back and accept it and, do what you can do.
Well, good for you.
Thank you.
Okay. So I got to ask, like what prompted the like, oh shit moment? Okay. I gotta do something.
Well, there's a history of it. It's a family disease. So there are various, kind of family members in my life who have dealt with it. And so it was something that was kind of always on my radar. And I got to the end of college and I was going to I was going to an event. I was in an a cappella group, and I was going to an event with my a cappella group, and I was sitting with them, and we were all like passing a bottle of champagne on our way to this thing, and I was thinking, wow, this is great. I wish I was alone though. And then I was like, whoa. I was like, wait a minute. And so that was kind of like the first red flag. It still took me a while to actually, nip it in the bud. But I mean, thankfully I did get sober very young. I was 22 when I stopped drinking.
Yeah, that's good.
So, I could have gone, it still could go a different way. Thank goodness as of yet it has not. But yeah, so that was definitely the moment where I was like, oh, okay, that's not quite right.
Yeah.
But thankfully it's been a relatively smooth road. We've got a community of people who are supportive, and
good for
family
you.
who's supportive and everything. Yeah.
Like subconsciously, has that leaked into the songwriting at all?
I don't even think subconsciously. I think it's pretty. It's funny because I like a lot of people know that I don't drink, but it's not necessarily like I'm like, hello, I'm an alcoholic. And not because it's a secret, just because it comes up or it doesn't, you know? And so I think just with the total like reframing and rewiring of your brain that comes with getting sober, like there's no way that it can't kind of bleed into the art. Because I definitely was one of those people probably prior to getting sober. I was one of those people who was like, oh, well, if I'm not miserable, then nothing I'm creating will be worth listening to. And that's just not true, because 99.9% of the songs that I sing now are songs that I wrote after I got sober. Not. It
doesn't have to like inform.
Yeah. And I mean, it can. That I obviously still draw from those experiences because they are still my life experiences. But yeah, it's not the dominating thing. Like you don't have to be miserable to be creative.
Well, I appreciate you sharing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So the theme of this podcast is curiosity. Mm-hmm. Did you watch Ted Lasso by chance?
I did not. I don't have Apple TV.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well,
but I mean, like I hear everything about it, and I recently had the biscuits that somebody made for me.
Shortbread. All right.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, if you sell a couple extra shirts, get the Apple TV Plus for a month.
Okay.
Because you'll love it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'm sure I will. I just need to
it's all about positivity, and it's all about like going through a dark forest, and then coming out, and all these things that I think your mindset, your whole way about you would align to, and you'd be like, okay, this is really cool.
This is my thing.
But anyway, part of it is curiosity. So I think as a mom, as a wife, and as a musician, I guess, what are you most curious about?
Wow. I think I'm really curious about, I don't know, I'm really fascinated by how other people, I'm trying to think of how to articulate this so I don't sound like an idiot. It kind of goes back to what I was saying about like what might be my next steps with this album, because I did this like little showcase thing called Covering Your Friends, where you were supposed to cover the songs of other musicians that you were friends with. And two of my friends did two of my songs. And hearing them do my songs, it was like they were completely different songs, the way they interpreted it. And so I'm kind of constantly curious about how other people are perceiving the world. Not in like a, do people like me way, just kind of like okay, I know what I'm seeing and I know what I'm experiencing in this moment. And there's almost no way that I can tell how this other person is experiencing it without asking, So I like to kind of ask those questions. I think I'm like perpetually curious about, are we living the same moment? Like even right now, like we're having this conversation and I have no idea what's happening in your head as this is going on. So I think that's what I'm most curious about, is just kind of the little subtle differences that can happen in an identical moment for two different people.
I love that. That's a great answer. All right.
Thanks.
That's great. Well, I appreciate your time. Congrats on the album.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for swinging by. I'd love to hear some music.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. Yeah.
Thanks, Lucy.
Thanks. My name is Lucy Isabel. This is a song called My Memory, and I wrote it about being a parent and about having parents and sleep deprivation. No, not really that part, but it's the underlying theme. All right.
tea left cooling on the counter, and everybody seems to see, except for her. She's keeping busy. My partner wants to be outside. My daughter walks around completely free, crinkles up her nose and bares her teeth. She's just like me. She's breathless and wants everyone to see. When the years have gone and my time has passed, and when everyone I love might raise a glass up in my memory, I wonder what will make you think of me. Oh, I wonder what will make you think of me. The sunlit cage you held so dear, the ringing bells and constant new distractions, a distinct idea of fashion, and the way you show you care. You don't need words, you're always laughing. In empty sink and scattered thoughts, you realize you're standing in the doorframe, and it's different in an instant. Now you'll never be the same. You can try, but it'll always be in vain. When the years have gone and my time has passed, and when everyone I love might raise a glass up in my memory, I wonder what will make you think of me. Oh, I wonder what will make you think of me. Now we're barefoot dancing in the grass on a Sunday afternoon, chasing shadows that no one else can see. I wouldn't dare to change a thing, I wouldn't make a move. If she needed it, I'd give her all of me. I'll leave a note on every door. The clothes inside our dresser drawer will stay there, and there won't be any question. Everyone will see the care. I won't let go until it's fair. I wonder what will make you